So we are
Yes,
live.
ma'am, we are live now.
Namaste.
Okay.
Namaste, Preeti. Welcome to Inspirex. Inspirex conversation series that we have begun in the month of July, and the intent of this conversation is to bring our inspirational Rex Karambir fellows on Monday, and then on Wednesdays we have youth experience conversation where we try and bring our college students that are part of a youth fellowship here to bring in a lot of work that they're doing. And on Fridays we bring on our learning experience that is for the educators fraternity, because we launched an education change champion fellowship for school teachers, principals, owners, and we have a conversation there. The intent of these conversation is to learn and create great content for other people to be inspired from. So once again, I welcome you, Preeti.
Thank you so much.
Our 2019 Maharatna awardee. And you have, yes, it's a great pleasure and honor for us to have you here. And today's conversation will be talking about little Preeti to Preeti now, and your journey of beautiful resilience and a journey which is full of inspiration, full of lessons, full of learning.
Sure.
So welcome, Preeti.
Thank you so very much, Ritu. This is absolutely an honor to be associated, number one, with Rex Karambir, and an absolute honor to be, awarded so many times over. And it really is a very humbling experience because I'm a very ordinary human being, a simple, ordinary human being who is trying to do something to make my own life worth, being on this earth.
So, Preeti, you said something so beautiful right away. And Rex Karambir celebrates the ordinary who are doing extraordinary work. And your life is replete with extraordinary resilience work that you've been doing. I'm going to start asking you something, Preeti, from there only, where you left, I'm an ordinary person doing ordinary. I'm going to take the title of your book, which says Flight Without Sight. And I would like to know, and I want to take you back to that little Preeti who meandered through world with knowing the world through every other sense, and who was looking at the world not from the eyes, but from the eyes of the soul. So what was it like in the childhood? And I believe and I know that, your resilience, your empathy, and all your power comes from that time also, when you had begun to kind of see the world from the, eyes of the soul and the senses.
Interestingly, yes, thank you. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to meander down to those good old days when I did not know that I was visually impaired. I did not know at that point that I couldn't see, and neither did my parents have any clue. I could see a little bit when I was very, very small. And I was a very insecure child, a very clinging child, and I remember always clinging to my mom or dad, and getting through life. And then I used to be very odd with all kinds of things, and I remember always getting my nose into things.
Okay. Yes.
Because if there was
there also. Yeah.
Absolutely, because I could see things very close by, and I would go close to things, I could see them. So probably, I could also smell them and I could touch them. So I would just be, all over, not knowing that I was automatically, naturally trying to use the other senses. That's the name of my first autobiography.
Yes.
And so from there on, I started school. I started my school in Simla, Auckland House, from Auckland House in Simla. And from there to Delhi, Holy Child School in Delhi. And from there, we went to Agartala. My father was on deputation to Agartala. He was an engineer. And there I went to another school called Shishu. We had the only one and only school, which was English medium in 1966.
Okay.
In Agartala, in Tripura.
Right.
It's a tiny little school, but that is where the teachers actually noticed and the principal actually noticed there was something wrong with.
How old were you then?
I was about 7 years old, 6 to 7 years old.
Okay, okay.
So that's where they realized that there is something wrong, because I was not copying my things from the the blackboard, and my handwriting was really bad, and so all of that. So they understood that I was not a disobedient or a child who did not pay attention, because my oral work was supreme.
Right.
So they called my parents and they said that there is something definitely amiss. So my parents obviously got very worried, because they also said I was not a disobedient child and I was a very peaceful kind of a child.
Yeah, yeah.
So they took me to the doctor and to a physician. Now in Agartala, in those good old days, there was only one eye specialist who did all the work.
Right.
But they did not know there was something wrong with my eyes. So they took me to a physician, and after he gave me a good full body checkup, he discovered that the problem lay in my vision.
Right.
And that's the time when he also consulted, excuse me, he consulted the eye specialist, ophthalmologist, Dr. Acharya over there. And they sent me to my parents to packing off to Calcutta. They said, we don't have any facility to check her out. She may lose her eyesight completely in the next 3-4 days, what we see.
Okay.
Complete loss of, because they asked my parents that she couldn't see this. They said, no, we never noticed. You know,
Right. Right.
Because a child doesn't need to see when you're a clingy child, you know.
Right, right.
So when we went to Calcutta, it was discovered that I do have very, very, very short sight, and it could, it could drop further very quickly. So that is the time when this whole episode started. But the most fantastic thing that I would like to mention here, and I always say that,
please do,
that I knew there was something wrong. I was scared because I had to go to a doctor, and doctors are not very, no child really likes to go to a doctor.
Absolutely.
The injections and all the horrible medicines that they poke around with.
Yes.
But that was about it. My parents, they just simply used their common sense, and they did not allow their trauma of discovering that they now had a blind daughter. Immediately, just in the next second, they found out that they have a blind daughter. They did not alter the atmosphere or allow the atmosphere of the house undergo any change. They continued to be who they were. I was treated the way I was treated before they discovered I was blind, and after. Right. So that did not worry me. I did not go into a trauma then.
Right.
And that is the reason. Of course, I had a lot of negative vibes coming to me from the society around, because people knew. And but still, when I felt, that at home I get scolded, I get to do my job, I have to do my duties, I get no excuses. So it doesn't seem that anything is wrong, really.
Right, right.
So from there on, then we came back to Delhi. My schooling continued, and now I would like to again mention over here we talk about inclusivity for people with disabilities, right?
Right, right.
So when my teachers and principal in that small remote township of Agartala, that was a very small place that time,
Right, right.
Excuse my bad throat. It's not bad really. It just wants to, just run before me.
Yeah.
So that is the time when the teacher said that, to my parents that please don't worry, we will keep her in school and we will ensure she goes through all the subjects. We will teach her.
Right.
We will adapt our teaching style so that she's
Right.
not left out.
Right.
So I was in inclusive education from there without having to, sort of fight for it or, ask people to keep me in class. And the same thing continued when we came back to Delhi. My father got posted back to Delhi. And
Yes.
Loreto Convent was the school which was closest to our residence in Delhi. So they admitted me.
Right.
They also admitted me very importantly, knowing that I have a vision problem. I was practically blind by then. And they promised my parents that they would take me up to class 11 because I would have been the last batch of class 11 in those days before
Right.
10 plus 2
10
came.
plus 2 began.
And till class 8, all was well. I was completely included. The teachers, without any, extra treatment, they just took me along and just supported me wherever it was required and continued to give me those, sort of supports that could keep me in class, not only in the education, but also games, PT, everything.
Right.
So I experienced that inclusive education till class 8 when suddenly the management changed and the next principal just threw me out and told my parents that she needs to go to a blind school.
Right.
And that was the time when actually the trauma hit.
I can imagine, yes.
Being thrown out of school and no other school wanted to admit me.
Yeah.
I was completely terrified, completely, shocked. I mean, I don't find words to express my, my desperate disaster that I went through.
Yeah, grief and trauma.
The fear, the shame, the sadness, that all is ended like this. That is exactly when I was 13 years old, and as it is when you step into teenage, then you are already facing so many issues.
Absolutely.
So that's been the journey up to my teenage.
So that's so beautiful. And what you talk about your parents, I mean, that's so beautiful and exemplary. And you talk of inclusivity, that from home you knew that you're inclusive, you are who you are to your parents, and no matter what you are and how you are, your parents doesn't change. But your parents were so strong and so beautiful. Great parents, I must say.
Absolutely, salute them. Absolutely, I salute them.
Yeah, so thereon your empathy became very high, and thereon your resilience also became very high.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
13 to be going through that trauma is so sad. And these are the examples of inclusivity that the world needs to know. And there are so many ways where inclusivity is not looked at, because it's, I think, the most important attribute for any organization, especially schools.
Sure. I would like to also point out it's also my parents and also all the teachers who taught me from class 2 to class 8. They were supreme. They never outcast me. The teacher would write on the board and she would just speak loudly what she's writing.
Yeah.
So that's it. I missed nothing. And we did not have any, today we have so many assistive devices and recording facilities, and there is so much today to assist me. I did not have anything yet. I learned to type a normal typewriter when I was allowed to give my examinations with the type of the typewriter.
Yeah, and that's why you remember these little details.
Yes.
Of your childhood, and I'm sure that school in Agartala, if ever gets to hear this conversation, or you may send them, would be delighted to honor you and feel so proud of you, the way you have gone through life, and you're such a beautiful example in itself. So so Preeti, I'm going to move to this Preeti then becomes a big girl, And then Preeti starts to do this wonderful work for people with impaired vision, people with disability. And you work 3 decades so diligently, so passionately, so devotionally towards whole lot of things. But before I go there, I want to touch upon you being the first visually impaired Zumba instructor. Tell me your love for Zumba, and I know that
aerobics.
It still today.
It is aerobics. Okay,
it continues till today.
Yes. Yes, I do work out. But, from that time when I went through this trauma, right? That is what, till I was actually, till I reached the time then I realized that I needed to be economically independent, was the period of my life which actually shaped me even further, because it was totally full of failures.
Right.
A lot of hard work, a lot of rejection, a lot of shame. I learned, I was put to learning music. I learned sitar. I thought that I would be able to win back my lost self-respect.
Right.
If I could become like Pandit Ravi Shankar ji and become a world-class sitarist.
And
I used to practice 8 hours a day.
Wow.
Every day, along with being trained to do all the homework, the household chores and everything, because my mom taught me cooking from the age of 9.
Wonderful.
Because as you know, being a girl in an Indian community in those days as well, you have to be perfect in all areas, right?
Right.
She taught me all of that, and after 8 years of practicing so hard with one focus and one dream in my heart, I was told that I can never become a performing artist. So again, those 8 years of my hard work were completely wiped out of my life. And I was at 0 point all over again. This was another very major setback and a very huge failure in my life. And which actually threw me into complete depression.
Right.
It threw me into complete depression, because what I realized, Itu, is that am I never going to succeed at anything? Am I not? Everything that I touch just turns to dust. And I work so hard and I give my best and do so much. And then ultimately I'm standing empty handed. So I thought that now I'm not, almost 20, and I'm just giving up on life.
Then what happened?
And that was my condition. And I was just, I just was feeling sick all the time. And it started to impact me physically also. And then the story of Helen Keller was told to me throughout when I was, growing up.
Right.
By one of my aunts. And she was a German lady.
Right.
And, then I suddenly realized that I'm only 20. Suppose I have to live, another 50, 60, 70 years.
Right.
How am I going to just sit here and, it's just not going to work. But even now, if I pick up education, it's not going to get me anywhere. Right. So, but I realized that Helen Keller had 3 disabilities.
Yes.
Rolled into one. I have only one. What am I crying for? That is something that came to my heart. And I really felt ashamed of myself, and I actually dared to dream again. I said, this is not going to work. If she in those days became a world well-known figure, and has done so much work in her life, then what's wrong with me? I just can't give up like that. And if I want to live, then I wanted to live a good life. So I decided, now I'm 20, let me get married. But anyway, then by the time I had a good personality, and I was a complete, I was ready to get married and have a home of my own, children of my own. So that was the new dream.
Right.
And then I suddenly realized nobody wants to marry me because I was blind. I was rejected practically over 100 times.
Right.
People wanted to become my boyfriends, but they did not want to marry me. They would just vanish, from the face of the earth. Then I realized that, then I actually thought that I'm failed so many times. I'm not going to fail at this. I'm going to find this man, Mr. Right, and get married to him. So I hunted high and I hunted low. And at the age of 23, I did find this guy. And I got married to him 1982. And, I was like, honestly, on top of the world. And, but within 2 hours of signing the marriage register, I realized that this was the biggest disaster of my life.
Right.
Why? Because this guy, out of my simplicity and because of who I was, a completely trusting person, I realized that he actually turned out to be an alcoholic, an abusive man, and a compulsive liar, right? And I spent my wedding night, just being lashed at, being abused, and the earth crashed around me, and my whole world kind of just shattered.
Right.
And I was just cleaning the bedroom. He was vomiting all over the place, and it was just atrocious. So I realized, oh my God, and that I went into complete shock. Right. And I stayed in that numbness for 5 long years till I was a mother of 2 children at that time. And I did not know what to do. I said, I'm not going to live like this. Life is not worth living. So I decided to actually kill myself, commit suicide.
Right.
But I failed at that as well. I did not have the courage. I even planned to kill my children and then kill myself. I failed at all of that. Now I can laugh about it.
Yeah.
I failed at that.
Yeah.
And that's where I decided that, and if I would turn around and tell my parents that, look, I want to leave this guy. So they said, no, in India, you can't do this. With great difficulty, somebody's married you. When your children grow up, they will look after you and all of that. But I somehow thought that, that's not a life that I want for myself.
Yes.
That's not something that I want to do. That I don't want my children to be ashamed of me, of their mother. Plus, I want to be an example for them. They can't just, it just can't work like that. And I needed a good life. So I decided that if I'm not going to become economically independent, then I will never be able to live the life of my dreams or the life that I want to live in my own very fashion, the way I want to live my life. And that is where I started to look for opportunities. And I just had a class 10, certificate from National Open School. That is all. Yes. So no jobs, nothing. I started thinking of being a housemaid from there on. Then I realized, I discovered the aerobics had come to India with Jane Fonda's cassettes. And also Veena Merchant had come to India to start her own classes. So I got after her. And that's where my aerobic journey started. And she also refused to teach me. So I just gave dharna over there. I said, I'm going to learn. So ultimately she trained me and I became the first and only blind aerobic instructor in 1987.
Congratulations once again on that, and sharing this beautiful journey.
So that is what shaped, those challenges. So I would like to say here that challenges come to us all. It's not only me. Every person out there, including you yourself, Itu.
Yes, of course.
Challenge you to say that if you don't have a challenge in your life all the time. We all have challenges.
I agree.
We have different kind of challenges. And they only are presented to us. Challenges come to us to give us the opportunity to step over them, make them as stepping stones and move forward.
Yeah, how beautiful. And, yes, that's what it is. Life is full of challenges and dark spots.
Yes, and that's where the light. Yeah. Sure.
So, you've so beautifully, like the Japanese art of kintsukurai, that we are all broken.
Yeah.
And either you fill that brokenness with gold of your experiences and your learnings.
Yes.
Or you fill the light which is within you. and you
Sure.
break through those dark times.
Sure.
And you talk
Absolutely.
of 8 years of learning sitar, you talk of dance. So I think you yourself innately knew somewhere that, music and dance and all these are beautiful therapies that keep helping us move forward. The sound
Sure.
therapy, the movement therapy, and all of that. And from there, you just began your journey. Your journey is so beautiful. Every time I read about it and hear about it, it gives me goosebumps and gives me great inspiration. And you have been such an inspiration for Rex Karambir movement all along. So,
I hope so.
of course you are. So, Preeti, tell me that, from here also, I'd like to take you to your beautiful journey of your great project of Silver Linings. And,
Yeah,
you being
sure.
a motivational speaker, you impacting millions of people in creating jobs, in
Sure.
creating paths, in creating all that. Let's go there then.
Okay. So, Itu, when I started my aerobic classes,
Yeah.
somehow, as you very rightly said, all of that, when one little step of success came my way,
Hmm.
step by step, I started moving forward. And then I suddenly realized that there would be so many other visually impaired children, people in this world who
Right.
may need, who I may able to
Hmm.
help and support, if not anything else, at least motivate them that there is a life for us as well. We can make our own lives, let's become proactive. So
Hmm.
that's where I started to volunteer with the National Association for the Blind Arkepuram, Sector 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was teaching the children aerobics, spoken English, and then I would
Hmm.
teach them, then slowly I got into counseling parents and became
Hmm.
sort of learned a lot over there. You know, what were
Right.
the needs?
Right.
Uh, so I felt that education is happening, but employment is not happening. People are not aware of our
Right.
abilities of people with disabilities and specifically abilities of the visually impaired. So I started to
Right.
do talks in schools. I went back to Loreto Convent. That was my first talk I gave. When I went back to Loreto Convent, they invited me to speak to their senior students. And
Right.
wow, what a moment that was. I get pulled out of
Sure.
that school. And here
Yeah.
I am, as a motivation speaker back there.
Right. Right.
So basically, I would talk about health and fitness, and then disability and my vision impairment, as it is also on my face and on my shoulders. So that's it gets
Yeah.
recognized. My abilities get recognized.
Right.
So on that note, then colleges, schools, corporates, women's groups, wherever I could get in, and then slowly I got invited to places to speak on fitness,
Hmm.
a lot of television, lot of newspapers, print.
Hmm.
I think I've been covered by practically every channel, every newspaper, every
Yes.
magazine that exists.
Yes.
But I used to really wonder, and so would my children also wonder.
Right.
And then awards started to roll in on their own.
Hmm.
And I honestly, even till date, I wonder, I'm just living an ordinary journey. My
Right.
children also said that, Mama, why do you get awards? Why people are taking your, making films about you? And
Right.
today, my granddaughter also, when she was very little, she would go behind the TV and watch. How can I get in there?
Okay.
Nani get in there? Okay.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's as simple as that. That I didn't think that when I
Hmm.
stepped into the world to create awareness about inclusion, then work with corporates to make place for employment for people with disabilities and especially the visually impaired.
Right.
I never knew that problem was so colossal. I just jumped in empty-handed,
Right.
without any money, without anything, just a dream in my heart and enthusiasm that I
Right.
have to change the world.
Right.
If I had realized the enormity of the problem at that time, I would have never dared to move out of my home. There's so much to do. But
Yeah.
it just started working with all the institutions, all the schools, colleges, where the visually impaired girls, and I somehow thought that I loved girls always. I also have a daughter, So I thought that, the girls really need to be, just to be motivated. And today, when I see those little girls, which I, spoke with, which I would spend time with, they're doing so well in life, I feel so happy that I have one little pinch of contribution out there.
Yeah,
So
your intervention.
it wasn't, I won't even call it an intervention. I would just say
You
that
be catalyst. So yes,
I was
that's
just there. I was just there for them to just say that, hey, there's nothing wrong with you. Come on, guys, just move on. Just if I can do it, so can everybody else do it.
Right.
So from there on, I started getting invitations from corporates to become a motivation speaker, and then I also worked as a computer instructor. I learned computers in 1994 at NAB with speech device. And then from there, I worked there for about a year or so. And then I needed more money. And then I was selling pickles. I sold pickles. I was pretty successful. I, in fact, must tell you that alone on my own sold more pickles than the entire 5 team of sales representatives in that company, did together. I sold double their amount. And I was taken on as sales and marketing head over there.
Right.
I filed for divorce in between. And within a year and a half, I won my divorce case as well, kept my children safe. So all of that continued to happen, and it's just rolling on. And I've been working since 1987 with the visually impaired. In 2006, I realized the enormity of the work that needs to be done.
Right.
And that's when I formally registered Silver Linings as a trust. Right. And till 2000 and I think 2017, I was working in open space, basically without any funding, without anything. But then I realized that there is need of quality education, especially for blind girls.
Right.
Not only quality education, but quality and comprehensive education. Because if we are talking about inclusion, we also need to equip the visually impaired accordingly so that they're able to contribute in a proper way. So if we don't teach them, they're not going to learn. They have to have an opportunity. So we opened a project called Shiksha.
Right.
And this is a small educational program that we run on ground. We have a hostel for blind girls here in Mayur Vihar Phase 3, Delhi. And we prepare the children, prepare the girls, and send them to mainstream schools. So our children are going to schools like Salwan Public School, School of Excellence. They're doing very well. They are learning technology right from the beginning when they come to us. And we have 2 other initiatives which work. We have a project called Dignity. We work with young women, blind women, and now men also have forced their way into me doing Dignity for boys.
Okay.
So we basically help them overcome the issues that they face because of their blindness where inclusion is concerned. Which is into employment, relationship, personality, interaction. There's so many things that are required, and building of confidence. So we are doing that. And then Fusion is another initiative that we run, which is bringing people with and without disabilities together onto one single platform. Right. So these are a few things that we are doing. And of course, I write. I've got 2 autobiographies published, and there's a lot more that one needs to share, because I feel that my life should not, the challenges that I have faced, the difficulties that I have been through, I should not go on discovering, we should not be inventing the wheel.
Yes.
And hence, my life is an open book, so that people can take away from there and find find where it kind of sort of relates with their lives. And I do a lot of trauma counseling. We work in the area of eye donation, promoting eye donation for the corneally blind. And we've practically made possible 750, 800 corneas over the last 3 years. So that is another thing we do with Dr. Shroff's Charity Eye Hospital. And I worked with Dr. Shroff's Charity Eye Hospital, Daryaganj, for the last 20 years now. I'm still associated with them.
Yes.
So it's been a wonderful journey, and there's a lot more to do. I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg, which I'm just trying to sort of nibble at.
So Preeti, I
And
know
now-
I relate to your working with Eye Care Hospital because just
Yes.
before I left my corporate job, it was with an organization called Help Me See, which were looking into backlog of the cataract blindness in the world. So
Right.
I was working with them, and there's a lots to be done because
Lots to be done.
when one cannot see, it completely affects everything else in your life. It affects skill development, it affects mind, it affects so many areas of life. And you been through it, you've been such a great
Absolutely.
yeah, and that is why your work is also not only inclusiveness, your work is holistic for someone who's visually impaired, that
Sure.
you just don't go through not being able to see, you go through so many other challenges and mental traumas.
Absolutely.
And as you said, your life is an open book. You're also a very beautiful example of our slug line. I change to change India.
Yeah,
That I have to change.
Absolutely.
I have to change to bring about change. And that is why, books and movies and awards come your way because you've been single-handedly that change. Another thing that you talk about and you want to set it right, which again began from your own personal life, is again another slug line of Rex Karambir. Right every wrong.
Yes, absolutely.
You,
right every wrong. Absolutely.
Yes. And right from childhood, I think, because of your parents, parenting, upbringing, everything, you have been this, Karambir.
Thank you so very much.
To stand so true to these two slug lines of Rex Karambir.
Absolutely. And honestly, when I was awarded the national award by the President of India in 2013, I was like, I just couldn't believe it. It was too funny. And then when the Karambir Award started sort of rolling in, I was so taken aback, but so encouraged, that's so much encouragement. And I said, Nahi, I'm sure I'm on the right path, and it doesn't matter if I'm, just one single person, but there would be impact that is happening. And when we turn around, there will be millions of people indirectly that I have been able to impact. And there are thousands and thousands of people I have actually touched. There are thousands of people which I have one-on-one, I have done counseling, and they are today really doing well in life. So we should never say कि मैं अकेली हूँ, I am all alone. What can one person do? I think that if all of us do, contribute, that my own bit, the world will be so much better. Really.
So now you're talking about our third slug line, which is together as one we can right every wrong. And you are such a fine example of all that.
Absolutely.
There I'd like to ask you that, disability does not hamper ability. And you have, received the highest awards, national awards, and all of that for creating jobs, etc. So much more to share and so much more to do, through your diverse, inclusive work. So, is there one insight that would be a takeaway from there?
Yes. First one very important thing is that disability definitely is a disability. It is a disability. And specifically, let me speak about blindness. Right. This is a sighted world made by sighted people for sighted people. Right. Nobody has ever thought that suppose a blind person comes along or a blind child comes along, what will happen? No. So we have to adjust, right? But however, we do not have one sense, but the other senses that are working senses, we can train them to navigate our lives. And that goes for everybody, not only people with visible disabilities, because visible disabilities are physical disabilities.
True.
I feel that every human being has one very big disability, which is an insecurity, hidden fears, hidden challenges, hidden traumas. All those things are disabilities. So I think one has to just say that, okay, this is something we cannot change, but let us work on our strengths. So we need to find our strengths, we need to discover our strengths and strengthen our strengths and then put them to work. And then you're done.
Right.
But we need training. We need people. See, I had to stumble at every point in life to discover this. But now I am here to help people and to show them that this is a simple thing you need to do. Put away your disability behind you and then work upon your strengths and allow me to help you.
Right.
I'm happy to help. And that's what we're trying to do. And that's why I'm here. And I'm so delighted, absolutely honored to get this opportunity to be able to be speaking here once again about what I continue to say. So this is one thing, put away your disability. Let us work upon our strengths. Let us not feel that our contribution is minimal, because once you look back, after you continue to do your little bit, this snowballs into huge contribution.
Yeah. So Preeti, Jerry is going to join us, but before he joins us, I'm going to ask you my last question. You know, you've been an inspirational speaker, and you know, this being expelled from Loreto House. In your 10th yeah, and you say, you talk about high school no's, and you also talk about, you know, you're a fine example of one of our other work that we do is it's not the competence that takes you forward. You're a finest example of that. It's not your competence that takes you forward, it's your character that takes you forward. And time and again, at every point in your life, you came up from those dark pit and proved to yourself and the world that no matter if I'm just high school pass, you're doing work which probably, you know, Harvard and Stanford and Ivy League colleges where people are expensively degreed and educated are not able to do. So I'd like you to talk about this, high school knows and character, not the competence that takes you forward.
See, building of a character, we all have a character. We all have I'm very proud to be an Indian. I'm a very proud Indian, because our culture, our culture, which comes down to us from our grandparents, from our great grandparents, from our uncles, aunts, parents, you know, the values that we have lived by, the culture that we are, we are gifted with. Right. I think that character belongs to each one of us, right? And I was extremely lucky to have, a family. My parents, yes. My father always, since I was a child, all he used to say, was a man of very few words. All he used to say, खुदी को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से खुद पूछे बता तेरी रजा क्या है. So as a child I couldn't understand, but as I grew up I knew that if my dad says apne aap kamana, always earn for yourself, do your work, okay, you will be looked after, you do your work, you do your duty and you take care of your responsibilities, your rights will run after you. And that's exactly what has happened. And I have actually implemented these things in my life from when I was a child, because I was always encouraged and pushed and motivated to do this. You know, so character building, I think, is already, we all have a wonderful character. We only get waylaid when we want to go in and, when our focus becomes extremely materialistic. Yes, we'd love to have lovely things and lovely cars and lovely, all of that. But if we don't have a peaceful night's sleep, it's all gone to waste. Yeah. So that is most important, that you need a peaceful night's sleep. And believe you me, there has I don't have, money stacked up behind me, but
Right.
I have been taken care of like a princess since the moment I stepped into this world, and I know I'd live like a queen till the end of my days.
Yeah.
So there is something because these are things that I think we need to share with the young people today. That
Right.
believe in yourself,
Right.
build your character, and not believe in what the neighbor is going to say, what people are going to say.
Right.
You have and you don't have. The have should be inside of you, and your outside, you will have everything else.
Right. You say something so beautiful and akin to what the lines your grandfather says, my father says, and another thing he says, wise men control their planets and fools follow them. So on that note, I'm going to invite Jerry, and he is joining us, and about the
Okay.
Magnificent Seven and etc. All the other conversations we are going to have with Jerry. Welcome,
Wow.
Jerry.
Hey, namaste too. Namaste, Preeti. How are you?
Namaste, Jerry. I am very well. How are you doing? It's so wonderful, and thank you so much for having me here. I am so
You're
honored.
welcome. It's an honor to have you with us as always. And how is Ashwini
Thank
ji?
you. Ashwini ji is fine. Absolutely great. Doing
Brilliant.
great.
Give him my regards. Is he somewhere around or?
He's actually working in the next room.
Okay.
He's taking this time out, to silently finish his stuff
Right,
because, so he's just working. I will
right,
definitely get him to say hello.
right. So flight without sight
Ji,
and the other senses.
ji.
Those are your books, right?
Yes, yes.
Excellent. So I've witnessed the flight without sight for a few years now, and I must say it's a wonderful flight.
Right.
But prior to that flight, Preeti ji, and I'm going to take you to a dark space there.
Sure.
You have been the victim of domestic violence,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
of a love marriage which went awry,
Absolutely.
uh, of you've seen a person transform
Hmm.
from a person who used to express deep love
Hmm.
to a person who almost became like a monster, and a very negative,
Sure.
cruel treatment was meted out to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I was just watching a video by Helen Mirren on feminism and her concept of feminism. She says, I refuse to be a part of that tribe which makes feminism into women politics. I want to just be a feminist because I want to be a woman who's equal and celebrated.
Sure.
And nothing to take away from the men, but if there's anything the men can do, we can do it as well, or maybe better, right? And I
Sure.
completely endorse that.
Sure.
Having been brought up by a mother from the age of 8 who
Yes.
worked hard to give me a good life and a good education, I've seen that I am who I am today because of her. So my father died very young.
Yeah.
And yet, in most societies, even in so-called matriarchal societies like Kerala,
Hmm.
uh, the men have very smartly conceived this entire thing about how women have equal rights, but how women still need to, they don't need to work because they'll be taken care of, because if you get married to a well-to-do
Sure.
man, and the woman does, and the woman do, and I call this very, very disguised form of domestic violence, because women don't
Yes.
even understand what is happening to them. And
Very
this
true.
insight came to me when I was coaching an actor who
Mhm.
had given up the entire acting profession after she got
Mhm.
married. And then when her divorce happened, she just couldn't come to terms with life and became a victim of depression and other anxieties. Now, what I'm trying to say is that one form of domestic violence is the physical violence, right? The other form of domestic violence is the emotional, mental violence, where women are abused, women are
Absolutely.
mentally harassed,
True.
and
True.
so on. And then you
True.
have this subtle form of domestic violence where a woman is made to feel comfortable. She probably gets into shopping as a therapy, right? And then she
Sure.
doesn't realize that basically her wings of freedom have been clipped,
Absolutely.
and she has been made into a complete dependent on the man, right?
Absolutely.
And I
Absolutely.
remember that is why I had spoken to you when we were forming the Magnificent Seven, and
Yes.
when we had done some speeches in some
Yes, yes,
corporate meetings and
yes,
in people, places like People and Company, about
yes.
how we need to form this movement called the Ahimsa Army
Bilkul,
Anonymous, so that we
bilkul.
have cells like the anti-prevention of sexual harassment cells, the
Sure,
posh cells in housing colonies,
sure.
because a lot of domestic violence and victims of domestic violence find it
Mm.
very difficult to speak to someone because of the fear psychosis
Yeah, yeah,
and the entire anxiety that in case my partner gets to know about it, he
mm,
might turn to be more violent
mm.
and do worse things to me. And
Sure,
I'm sure you went through that too. And then you, along with Rashmi, had worked with one of the
absolutely.
people who was chosen for our fellowship, who at
Yes,
that time was doing it for Mrs. India or Mrs. World, whatever
right,
it was called.
right, right.
Now, my basic intent is that we should form this, and I would be very happy if you became like the lead mascot for it. But I want to know, what are your insights on this subtle form of domestic violence which
Yes,
most women don't even realize has
yes,
happened to them,
yes.
including the most liberated women from South Delhi and
Yes,
South Bombay.
absolutely, absolutely, Jerry. You are absolutely right. Because you see, the basic, there's some, as you very rightly said, the smart men have really played this trick upon women from times immemorial. I think. You
Right,
see, when they decorate a woman,
right.
and before I move on to say, I just heard something on television. I watch very little television, but incidentally, something about Rajasthan cooking was happening. So
Mhm.
every piece of her jewelry indicates how she has to conduct herself. So the
Right,
heavier the jewelry, the more the diamonds and gold she's wearing,
right,
they basically they actually proclaim that these are for her to be bound to that particular man and be that submissive woman, even if she's
right,
a Rajput. So
right,
it was so shocking, and it
right,
reiterated what you were saying very rightly.
right,
On the other hand, it's a human nature that if you get things easily,
right,
if you are given things easily
right,
and with a smile,
right,
you very easily and very unknowingly fall into the trap of comfort and laziness.
right,
And that entire thing sort of derails you from your josh, from your energy,
right,
because you're getting everything on a plate. And before you have realized, you feel that you can't even go out there and drive yourself to the market because you have a chauffeur to take you there, and you have those credit cards to buy 50 nail polishes in one go,
right,
right? So you cannot think of doing anything else because you're all paid for.
right. Absolutely right. And,
But yes, and
and I don't think many, because these are educated
Haji, very
women I'm
highly,
talking about, and the
very
people,
extremely
and they don't even realize that this has happened to them over a period of
sure.
time where
Yes,
they
yes,
become, and I'm going to use a strong word, they become like domesticated cows who are
yes,
basically
absolutely.
more of showpieces. And
Bilkul,
I think the word which is used in the corporate parlance is trophy wives, right?
bilkul, bilkul,
Because
bilkul,
it's that glam doll to show in the corporate parties and other events,
bilkul,
and
bilkul.
and their individuality, their entire sense of
Bilkul.
being is taken away from them, and they don't even know it.
No,
They don't even
and
know it.
they realize that when they have crossed about 15 to 20 years of a life of this kind of a life, of living in the lap of luxury, they've had children. Because of the luxury, their health has gone completely off. And then suddenly they realize that the men who have done this to them are actually two timing, and they're having this is what I have also noticed a lot. And these poor women are completely at a loss. Their health has left them. And at that time, when I tell them that you have to wake up and do something for yourself, they're not able to. They're saying, how can we do it now? We don't know how. We're so scared even to move out of the house by ourselves. And that's
True.
where they realize that their wings have been not only clipped completely, they are defeathered, and
Right.
completely their brain has also been worked upon to, because you see, the brain only develops and becomes useful, remains useful and develops only when you are using it in the proper manner.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So their minds have
And
also gone.
in neuroscience, it is called neuroplasticity.
Bilkul,
But your
bilkul.
brain will only develop and expand and rewire
Huh?
if you choose to rewire it, failing which you are a victim of
Yes,
the victim mindset and the old wiring which has been
bilkul.
formed in our culture, our nature, and our nurture, because we also come from a very, very hypocritical, duplicitous society where we'll
Absolutely.
worship the goddess in the morning
Sure.
and kill the girl child the next morning.
Yes,
Right?
yes,
And
absolutely, absolutely.
so I think that this requires a huge. Now, my basic other problem is that a lot of organizations work on these campaigns, right? And we have this fancy campaigns happening on domestic violence, etc.
Yes, absolutely.
Um, and nothing against those campaigns; they're nice for awareness, but there is no intervention. You
No,
know,
no.
it's like there was a campaign called Bell Bajao, and with all due respect to the campaign, I mean Bell bajane se thodi na matlab rukega domestic violence. You need to intervene deeper, and one of the ideas of Ahimsa Army Anonymous was that the cells which operate anonymously is sworn to secrecy and confidentiality, because they would you know would extend that trust to people who are victims of domestic violence and maybe even marital rape, because that's not even
Sure.
considered to be an offense in India.
No, no, absolutely.
And to come and share with them, and slowly kind of bring this up in the board of managers meetings or the RWA meetings, that we've heard of certain cases of domestic violence, and we should send out a circular to everybody that we are aware of what is happening in what apartment, and if we get wind from neighbors or others that something like this is happening, we
Yeah.
will be compelled to call the cops in. Now, of course, this has to be done nicely and subtly, so that the man doesn't think that his wife or his woman has squealed on him.
Sure.
At the same time, I think on a different note, we have many of our Karmavir Award recipients and fellows who work on violence against men, right?
Absolutely,
So that
absolutely.
so there is domestic violence against men also,
As well,
right?
as well. Sure.
Marital
Sure.
rape may not be possible, but I don't know, right?
You
But what
never
I'm
know, Jerry, today.
so sorry.
You
What
never
I'm
know what happens.
Yeah, and what I'm trying to say is that the cells should be functional and operate neutral of gender.
Yes,
Maybe
yes,
even people from
agreed,
the
agreed.
LGBTQ community, because
Absolutely.
today many societies and corporates have opened up the space
Right.
for people from the LGBTQ community to
Sure.
work with them, but there is no defined law for sexual harassment against a person who's homosexual,
Absolutely, absolutely.
or there is no defined law for harassment from the same sex,
Sure.
uh, which probably is because we don't want to accept that this is a huge community and we need to give them equal rights,
Absolutely.
rather than condemning them or shaming them, that because this no this shaming again starts from school, because
Yeah.
because
Because,
I mean I I went to school almost 35 years back is when I passed out of school. But boys in school used to call people who are a little feminish or ineffeminate.
yeah, sure.
Those boys used to be teased mamu, right?
Ah, true.
Or good. This is
Ah,
typical Bombaya language, right?
Bombay language, true.
Right? Good basically means jaggery, right?
Yeah, 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 I
But
know.
but in slang it basically means gay or homosexual. Now that continues, that kind of teasing in school and colleges continues. So there is a awareness to be brought about at another level that, hey, they are human beings too. And that's the reason in the Magnificent Seven, which you are a part of,
Yes,
we had a person from the LGBTQ community.
yes,
We had a Hijra called Abina Ayer, we
yeah,
had Harish
yeah,
Ayer, and we used to
yeah.
tell their stories, and really, people used to suddenly realize that, hey, these guys are
It's
bringing the
okay.
issue to the fore
Yeah,
rather than just
absolutely.
saying we celebrate diversity and inclusion,
No, no, no. Absolutely,
right? So
absolutely. That was beautiful.
I think I would, in this forum, request you that please take the lead along with E2. I will share a couple of articles I wrote with you,
Sure,
and if
sure,
you could draft the initial copy, then we'll bring in others like Abba Singh and Itu's daughter Lavanya, who are lawyers, about how we can draft this. So the entire idea is that you draft a guideline and put it up on the internet, on a website
sure,
called Ahimsa Army Anonymous, and let
sure,
people uh, download that draft and register that our RWA is forming the society,
sure,
and these are the five
sure.
or six
And we,
members who will run that
sure,
cell, right?
sure,
And
sure.
slowly, that awareness will increase, and then so, but this, where people know that there is a direct intervention, I feel would deter people from further violence, because a lot of women, unlike you, unlike Rashmi, find it difficult to leave that marriage because of that subtle domestic violence that I spoke about,
Sure,
because they
sure.
don't know how to go out there and face the world alone
Because
now.
I also feel, Jerry, that there are a lot of people, as you very rightly said, there are a lot of people who are trying to create awareness about domestic violence. But
Right,
uh, the more I see all these women closely, they themselves are suffering in one way or the other, and they are not being able to pull out from there.
right.
It is a very tough life to it takes a lot of hard work, lot of courage to step out of a domestic violence. It may be of any structure. I
Absolutely.
somehow feel the our kamwalis do a great job. They beat up their husbands. That
Right.
bahut ho gaya, let me give it, but we won't.
Right.
We
Right.
don't do that.
That becomes domestic violence again. Right. So
So at least
yeah,
they do something about it, but
yeah,
we
yeah,
don't do anything about
yeah.
it.
Right. So
So
good.
sure,
So you also been a part of Magnificent Seven, and you had a great
absolutely.
flight without sight. What do you
Absolutely.
think helped you to overcome all those difficulties and still forge ahead, pave your own path, create your own path, and you continue doing great work? You now want to build a shelter and things like that. So tell us what inspires you, and what do you think works for you? Is it competence or character?
I think the wish to live life queen size is what is always motivating me, because I don't know how much time I have. I never knew how much time I am going to have on this earth. But if I want to live, then I want to live. As you know that I had sort of planned a suicide and murder and all of that. But if I want to live, I want to live a good life. And I feel that each time that every day I should be able to use my challenges and the pain that I have suffered uh, to help others not to reinvent the wheel. So let me share, and doing so, I want to live like a free bird. I don't want to have anything that I should want to hide from anyone. I want to live like a free bird, and that's why I talk about flight without sight. That
Right.
it doesn't matter, I can't see, it's okay, but I want to live my life in a good way whereby I am comfortable in my soul.
Very nice. So what I'm hearing you say is that even though you have no sight, you have worked on unleashing your other senses, unleashing
Absolutely,
your own
absolutely,
potential, and continue doing that,
absolutely,
which basically means the character and the discipline has worked for you. And like I
absolutely,
always
absolutely.
explain to people, that discipline basically means being
Basic,
a disciple of oneself rather
very
than being a disciple of any sadguru or anybody
sure,
like that. Right.
absolutely,
Very
absolutely.
nice. Excellent, ma'am. So great insights, pleasures
Great.
learning with you. always a pleasure learning with you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us, and I shall now leave it to you for any closing final words on the show, I mean. Yeah. And maybe your next book,
Super.
when you spoke about murder, I just got an insight. But maybe your next book should be called Murder at Preeti Villa.
I
Right?
can't, I don't have anybody I need to murder now.
No, no, no.
They're
It'll
all
be
dead and gone.
it will be a fictional book, Murder at Preeti Villa. It's got a nice
Yeah.
ring to it, right? Yeah.
I'm actually writing a book. I have just started, but the weather is so horrible, so I'm waiting for a little good weather. It's actually, dream it, do it, because whatever you can think of,
Right.
small things, how dreams come true,
Right.
and we don't dare to dream. So that is something definitely I
Right.
would be working upon, and lots of other things. And Jerry, I'm honored that you would like me to draft something. But as you know, I'm a very simple person, so I will do a simple draft to guide me.
That is good enough. Whatever, in fact, whatever you had discussed
Right,
with Sonal
Angie, sure.
and Rashmi, you can just put that on thoughts
Yeah, yeah.
loosely, and then we'll build it up from there.
Build it up.
Right.
But thank you so much. This is, Rex platforms, all of them, including Magnificent Seven and all of the platforms where I have been so humbled to receive so much honor. I mean, I sometimes really don't think that I deserve all that, but I'm happy, I'm encouraged. And I think this has given me another opportunity to reach out to all those people out there, whether they can see or they can't see, that life only happens to us once.
True.
Let's live it well.
Right.
Let us
Right.
not waste it in all kinds of strange, we just get caught in this jungle of I don't know what. Really, don't have a term for that. But let us live it. Let us make ourselves happy. When we
Right.
make ourselves happy and peaceful,
Right. Absolutely. When you're validated from within, you don't need validation
Absolutely.
from outside. And when you're validated from
Absolutely.
within, then your brain
Sure.
is calm and you can create with excellence. There is a whole
Sure.
science to it. And
Sure.
just one more thought which I wanted to share. It's not that people don't dare to dream. Many dare to dream. But the problem is most don't have the courage of conviction to work on their dreams.
Absolutely. My
Therein
dad's
lies the
word.
problem.
My
Therein lies the
dad's
problem.
word. You just spoke my father's word. He used to always tell me as a child also, you should have the courage of conviction. You can go ahead and do anything that
Absolutely.
you can justify to
Right.
yourself. You don't have
Right.
to tell us that this is right or wrong. You go ahead and do it if you can
Absolutely.
justify it to yourself.
Absolutely. And that's what we're trying to do with the younger generation.
Absolutely.
Build in them that courage of conviction to understand that they can move mountains. It is not some
Yes.
god or some faith which moves mountains. It
God
is
is
they themselves who can move mountains.
God is within us.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
अंदर
And
ही तो है वो.
yes, right. But for many, it is in the statues and the temples and now in Ayodhya. So that is how it works. Right.
Well,
So
everybody is most welcome. Jerry, if we were all alike, I think the world would have been a very boring place, and we
Right.
would not be also, getting a platform to do what we are doing, I think.
very true. Very true. Excellent, ma'am. So thank you.
Thank
Brilliant.
you.
So I will leave it to you, Anitu, for any closing words, and
Thank you
then
so
we
much.
shall call it a day.
Thank you so much.
You have a
Thank
great evening. Okay,
You too,
over to you,
Jerry.
Itu and Preeti.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Preeti.
you.
मेहनत करने वालों की हार नहीं होती. You're a fine example of that, and your life is replete with inspiration right from when you were 7 to when you're planning your
Thank
next
you.
novel in the good weather. So thank you
Absolutely.
so much,
Thank
and
you.
I look forward to the next project which Jerry has just spoken
Yes.
about. Let's get going on that. Maybe we
Sure.
can frame the structure and outline of it in a
Sure.
better way
Sure.
while the weather is still hot and when we are sitting.
Sure.
And
So,
then you
yeah,
can get your novel.
absolutely.
yes.
And Preeti ji, if you could let us know by tomorrow or day after, by when you will be able to give us the paper, so we'll get the other people in the system also aligned accordingly.
Sure. So I would definitely let you know, Jerry, in maybe a week's time. I would really need a week.
Sure,
to
sure,
put this together. But
sure.
before that, I would really like to put more focus on. I don't remember clearly what happened on that day. What were the words spoken? But from my own side, how I feel, I think that would be more valuable.
Right. Surely.
The baseline of what it should be, and let's not make a very long
No, no, no. I
document,
think the
it should be
guidelines
just
not
pointers. Yeah.
not more than 10 pages max.
I don't think even that would be necessary in the beginning. In the beginning, I would like to put out pointers, and then you can guide
10
me.
pages with 10 words on each page.
Yes, sure, sure. So
Okay.
let me come up with something
Right.
definitely.
Okay.
We keep
Sure.
in touch.
Surely,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Okay,
Thank you
you
so
take
much.
care and have a great
Thank you
evening.
so
You
much.
too. Have a good evening, Ethan. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste. Namaste.